Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Martine's Musings. I'm your host, MartineFelton, and today I have a special guest with me, Michelle Henderson, author and psychic medium. Welcome, Michelle.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about our conversation.
Yes, me too. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. I'm surviving the snow and sleet in Texas.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Well, I wanted you on the show because I wanted to talk about mediumship and your experience with mediumship, your background, and how you got started. And we'll take it from there. So, how did you get started with being a medium? How did you know that
Oh
you
my
had
God.
gifts?
That's a wonderful question because how do we ever know?
I know, right?
I know, it's one of those things that things begin to happen around you that are not in the mainstream and or a feeling that you have and you're going, what is going on? That type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think spirit always knows the time whenever you're called out. And of course, when I knew a little bit about the spiritual world when I was younger, I could feel the different energies around me. I could feel when, there's spirit in the room. At first I thought it was normal because I was so young and I accepted it. And
Yeah.
then as I got older and I watched TV and I talked to my friends about it, I found out it wasn't normal. I mean, that people didn't talk about it.
Right.
To me, it probably was normal, but people kind of brush it off and ignore it. So, really, in my 20s, I started to have a spiritual awakening where, I really started diving into it. I experienced more spiritual events. Spirit began to talk to me verbally, and I couldn't really understand what they were saying, but I could hear them in the
Mm-hmm.
room, in the next room, and they got closer. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's the time that spirit really began to try to wake me up. And I just was not ready at the time. And I said, you know what? I want to use it in my life, but I don't want to practice it. And spirit really, I mean, you are in control of your destination. And
Right.
so when COVID hit, right before COVID, is when I decided to go ahead and retire from education and say, I am ready to come out as a psychic medium and to help heal others spiritually.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's how it all came about. But COVID was a wonderful time for me to really reflect on
I
my
think
journey.
I think it was a wonderful time for a lot of us in the spiritual community to really hone in on our gifts. And because we had so much of that staying put time, and
Absolutely.
and we were in a time of such unrest politically,
Mhm.
socially. A lot of the younger generation too were awakening.
Oh, absolutely.
like
Yes.
like we were talking about, my daughter, like her generation in the 20s, in the teens, young teens, they're starting to spiritually awaken as well.
Now
um
now did you have now during COVID, did you have an experience too? Awakening for yourself?
well, I my awakening really consciously for me, where I started noticing it and acknowledging it, started in 2018.
Okay.
So during when we hit the pandemic, yes, that's when I started really honing in and getting and meditating more and trying to communicate and open my channels and communicate with spirit a lot more. Prior to that, I would say I was just really, really, my psychicness was really on high. Not so much of the medium part.
Right, right.
But when I went for a reading with a medium, which he told me, he was like, "You're going to be doing what I'm doing."
And you're going, "Oh, good." I think.
I think, yeah. I was like, okay.
Yes, yes. Well, you say 2018 because that is so close to COVID. Maybe that was the energy shift.
Well, we went on lockdown. What was that? 2020?
Yes. Yes. So it's
2020.
very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there definitely was an energy shift. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I felt it and saw it within other people too.
And
For
I agree with you talking about your daughter being in her 20s.
sure.
A lot of the young generation, they don't care what other people think of them. And
Yes.
I grew up being a people pleaser,
Yeah.
and I think that really, I don't want to say it hurt me. It was along my journey that I had to be that way. But
Me too.
in itself, I think it's fantastic that these younger generation, they don't care. They're not people pleasers. They're getting out there and they're saying their truth, which is so
Mhm.
important.
Yeah, it is very important. And they are more entrepreneurial minded.
Yes. Yes.
Not like us. I was raised to go to school and get a job and the end.
Yes. And just live your life, pay your bills,
Yes, pay your bills.
survive. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what was your spiritual background like?
My spiritual background had a lot of the religious aspect to it.
Hmm.
So I grew up in a Methodist home.
Oh, okay.
And I grew up in Abilene, we have 3 Christian colleges right there in the Bible Belt.
Hmm.
So, but you know what? I really embraced my religious background because that was a part of me. That was the
Yeah.
piece of the puzzle that got me to where I am today.
Yep.
And believe it or not, I still go to church. I'm a, spiritualist that is a Christian and also believes in, the afterlife and mediumship and so forth. So I actually have both of the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, I like that. I like that because I was raised Catholic
Yes.
and I don't really, it's not like now that I'm an intuitive and I have these abilities that I shun away the church. That was, like you said, our foundation,
Yes.
what, helped me to get to this point. And there are still, even though, you know, some things that I may not agree with in the church, but it is important to have that foundation no matter what your belief system is. It's
Oh,
important.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And,
yeah.
I think we are reaching a period in time, though. A lot of people are not, going to the church. And I
Mhm.
think that's where spiritualism is so important for them to really have and know that there is a, greater good and there's a something bigger than ourselves.
Yes,
So, I just think
absolutely.
that because I think a lot of our teenagers, too, and a lot of people are beginning to have mental health issues. And
Mhm.
if you have, something to fall back on and something to lean on and have that faith and the hope that
Yes,
really gets you through the hard times.
I agree. I so agree with that. When you were younger, coming up, did you have did you said that you had like inklings or experiences
Mhm.
with spirit when you were, did you try to push it down like for a certain time, or were you resistant to it is what I'm asking.
And that's a very good question. As I reached out, and I want to say I was a teenager at this time, I
Hmm.
would because I really wanted to explore and understand what was going on. And when I would talk to people, they would kind of shun me off,
Okay.
and then I became afraid of it because I
Mm,
think I felt their fear of what was going on.
yes.
And whenever, especially in my 20s, whenever spirit was trying to wake me up, I mean, there's always a reason for it, right? It even scared me more. And I thought it's coming across so strong, but yet I didn't know who to talk to. So in my late 20s, I actually found a medium that walked me through step by step. And she said, "You're going to be okay. This is all coming from you. This
Yeah.
is coming from your spirit team. It's nothing to be afraid of." And so, taking that first step, finding somebody who has the same experiences as I did is so, so important and
Yes,
so
it
beneficial.
is. It is because it's hard to find in this work. it's hard to find people that you really really connect with, and that you feel like you can trust and share your experiences, because it can be isolating.
Oh, absolutely.
It can
I
be
did. I
very
felt very
isolating.
alone.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
me too. And I found, I started meeting like-minded people online thanks to the
Mhm.
pandemic. Otherwise, I would have been going back and forth to work, not, not
Oh, I
really having
understand.
the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's what the lockdown and the pandemic, even though we're still in it, but now we're moving around more.
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
I took during COVID where we were locked down, I
Mhm.
actually took a 9-month course with
Oh.
Lisa Williams, and the group and there were only 32 of us.
Mhm.
So we would meet twice a week on Zoom and we bonded. And
Right.
it was so uncanny that everybody had the exact same experience,
Mhm.
through life. And so then when things were being lifted, we actually met up in Buffalo, New York after the course was over. And so I got to
Oh,
meet everybody, most everybody in person. Not everybody could make it, but
yeah.
but
That's
that
not
was
too far from me. I'm in New York.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and we actually met in Lilydale as well.
Okay.
So have you heard of Lilydale?
No.
Oh, okay.
Buffalo
Well,
Buffalo
okay.
is a few hours away. Like, I would drive there. I would say it's about 4 or 5 hours away from me.
Oh, wow. Okay. I
Mhm.
understand that, but it is well worth it. But just to let everybody know, Lilydale is a housing community with only mediums that live there.
Oh, wow.
And it was developed during during the big peak of whenever it started with the Fox sisters.
Mhm.
And so this community where people would go to in the late 1800s to find spirituality and to
Wow.
speak with, people who have crossed over and be mediums. That's where they found they're people,
Mhm.
people who believed in the same thing as they
Yeah.
would all go to Lilydale. And so Lilydale opens it up to the public during the summertime, and they have workshops, and all these mediums come. They have platform readings where mediums do readings in front of an audience. So
Mhm.
it's a beautiful community, and it is beautiful up there,
It is.
upstate
It
New
is.
York.
Nice to be around nature too.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Yes, yes,
Beautiful.
yes. So what do you, if a someone came to you for a reading, how does your mediumship manifest? Like, what
Okay, and
is
that's
your,
a great question because
yeah, because
whenever
everyone be different.
yes, and that's what I was about to say. Anytime I have especially a new client,
Mhm.
I always say everybody does it differently. I mean, because we're all different people, we receive differently,
Mhm.
even though our message or objective is the same for reading as for healing. And to meet the greater good. So whenever, of course, whenever I first meet with them, I explain the whole thing, what mediumship is all about. So, how I receive messages from spirit and from a loved one who has crossed over is a lot of times it's like a conversation like we're having now.
Mhm.
And I ask the person who has crossed over, the loved one, I'll say, "Well, tell me about yourself. What is your favorite memory with my sitter?" And
Right.
so sometimes they'll tell me in my own voice, they'll answer back immediately,
Mhm.
or I'll have the feeling of exactly what they want me to say, or they'll send me a picture. So if they like have a favorite car, they may send me a picture of a car. Now, I always tell my clients that sometimes it's all in the interpretation. So
Mhm.
I may see a car and interpret it completely different than what the sitter knows about the car.
Right.
So if I hear a no, if they're going, no, that doesn't make any sense at all, I'll go, it's okay. It's my interpretation where I'm going to dive back in and ask Spirit, well, why did you give it to me that way? Where am I wrong?
Mhm.
So I'll continue. And then the answer will come up eventually and
Right.
within
Yes,
that
you
reading
will.
time.
Mm.
But I always, at the very end, will give a message. And that's not only evidential evidence is important, but also Why is that loved one here to give a message? What message do they have for the sitter? And
Mhm.
that's the number one thing. Why are you here? Because it takes a lot of energy for them to communicate with me.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It's like we have to raise our vibration, and they kind of have to lower theirs to meet. So there is a happy
Absolutely.
medium, which makes us mediums. That's so funny. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and when I work at a holistic fair and
Hmm.
I'm doing back to back to back and
Yeah.
my energy is way and of course the first one, you're getting your energy up there, but after that, if you
Hmm.
keep your energy up there, you can just, you don't have to come down at all. But
Exactly.
it wears you out.
Yeah, it does wear you out.
Yes.
It
Yeah. I mean,
really
it's like
does.
almost running a marathon. You're not, it's not exercise, but it's the energy part of you that you are just drained.
How do you prepare for a reading? What do you do before?
Oh, I love that. I'd love to sit within about 30 minutes of the reading. Now, if I'm at Holistic Fair, it's kind of hard to get prepared. But
Yeah.
if I do a private reading over Zoom, I do a clearing of the room, and it's not like I'm trying to. And I use sage,
Hmm.
and sage opens me up. It relaxes me. It's almost like a bumblebee, with the smoke, and it's like, oh, I'm
Yes.
relaxed now. So
Yeah.
it really opens me, and it kind of helps me connect with spirit. So I do that first. And then if my energy level is low, I listen to music and I try to dance around and kind of get in my power.
Hmm.
And then I always set an intention of connecting in with spirit and just, saying, please help me to um, give this message to the reader so that they understand what the message or what I am trying to say.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely, before I do my readings, I use tarot cards and
Mm.
oracle cards. And before I do my readings, I always like to listen to music, and it
Oh, yeah.
raises my vibration instantly and dance around and stuff. I do that regardless. But before a reading, I kind of like to do a little meditation or sitting in the power a little bit and kind of expand my aura out.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and
Yes.
I feel like that's hard to explain to people. They're like, "What do you mean expand
Oh,
your
yeah.
aura? Like, what are you doing?"
I know it really is, isn't it? Because it really is hard to understand, especially if you're not in the business. You're
Mhm.
going, "What?"
What?
Yeah, and that they really feel different people's energy, but
Mhm.
they probably don't think about it.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I always imagine in my mind whenever I'm doing that, whenever you're expanding your aura, I always picture in my mind what I'm doing so that I can actually see the energy moving. You
That's
know,
a good tip. That's a
yeah,
good tip.
yeah, and because I'm a visual person, so I
Yes.
have to visually see it. I know it's happening anyway,
Uh-huh.
but I have to visually. And if I close my aura, and I don't want energy in, I think of like a superhero shield
Yeah.
because I'm into superheroes, and so I put
Mhm.
that shield up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it blocks other people's energy.
One thing that I need to be that I'm working on is really more protecting of my energy, and
Mhm. Right.
asking for protection, and a lot of mediums like to do spiritual baths and things like
Mhm.
that, things that will cleanse
Oh
you
yeah.
after, because
Right.
you're so open, and after doing readings,
Yes.
the way that I am and being taught is about protecting your energy, and sometimes there may be attachments and things like that, so
Mhm.
you want to keep that you away, and like you said, close like your energy after.
Absolutely, especially during a holistic fair. After all
Hmm.
those readings, you've got to ground yourself.
Yes,
And
grounding.
that's one thing this surprises me, but I was told to eat meat as well because
Mm,
meat grounds you.
okay.
And so, especially after being up so high for so long,
Hmm.
and then walking in the dirt or the earth and hugging
Yeah.
a tree will ground you.
Yeah.
But yes, I love salt baths. And
Yeah,
that does, it clears other people's energy from your energy. And it's so soothing
yeah, it
in
is.
a way.
It is. It definitely, definitely is. So do you what do you think about sitting in the power? Do you think that's a good tip for developing mediums? Because I want to give, for those who are listening, if you're a
Mhm.
developing medium, I want to give them some tips. So what tips would you have for making a connection with spirit?
Absolutely. Sitting in the power is so important because, again, it's almost like you're getting ready to run a marathon.
Hmm.
It's no different when you're working with energy. So, the more that you work with your energy and you can feel that energy, because when you sit in the power, you're concentrating on the energy around you and your own energy and
Hmm.
learning how to really get it in the room and moving it back and forth. It's just an exercise that it is important for everybody. Like you said, meditation is also important. And what I found out in my meditation practice, when I do yoga first,
Okay.
it actually opens me up more for
Yeah.
meditation. I
Mm.
don't know, you're working with those, you're first of all, you're lining your chakras
Yes.
up, especially during yoga, and then they're all ready for meditation
Yeah.
once you get them activated.
Mm.
But yes, but I will say, do not wear yourself out. Don't feel like you have to do it every day. If you do it 5 minutes a day, perfect. But
Hmm.
don't feel like, you have to do practice for an hour a day or you'll burn yourself out. But it is important to sit in the power to strengthen your ability to deal with your energy, know how to work with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I try to do that almost every night for maybe 15 minutes at least,
Mhm.
but then sometimes I find myself falling asleep.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm
And
like, okay.
yes, and I've been told it's really good to do it in the morning, and I am not a morning person. So so I do mine at night as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the morning I try to do my exercises, so then I don't have time to do that because then right after my exercise I got to get the kids ready for school. So by the time that is all done, I'm not in the mindset for
Oh, right.
meditation. I'm in
Right,
the
yes,
mindset to getting on with my day and working.
right.
So, yeah, that's why I have to do it at night.
Oh, I understand completely.
Yeah. So
But
tell
then
me about
again
I'm
oh,
sorry,
go
go ahead.
oh, no, I was gonna say, then again, if you do your meditation after all of that, it actually centers your mind, and you'll be
Mhm.
relaxed during the day.
Mm. That's a good
Anyway,
point.
yeah. But
No,
I
that is a
understand.
good point.
Yeah.
I
I'm
was gonna
sorry.
ask you about your book,
Oh, yes. Okay.
Nurturing.
Spiritual nurturing for intuitive children.
Yes.
And it's so interesting because during COVID and during increasing my own psychic ability,
Mhm.
I felt like, I mean, it was time to write the book. When spirit kind of tells you, come on, you got to write it. And for some reason, if you don't write it, you get driven crazy. It's like, okay, it's something I have to do.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I knew exactly what needed to be in the book because the younger generation, again, are opening up spiritually. And a lot of the families are not ready for it. They don't know what's going on. It may scare them. So
Mhm.
this book is actually to help guide people that work with these families and to help them with the exercises so that, like sitting in the power, so a light worker could come in and work with the parents on how to have their children do an exercise each day. And I say the parents because the parents are the number one people who are around this child 24 hours.
Mhm.
So they need to understand what kind of exercises to do with their child. And the light worker could do, exercises with their parents and the child. But the main objective is to really educate these parents so that they can nurture and really embrace where their child is at. And each child goes through developmental stages just like we do as adults,
Right.
spiritually. They
Yes.
do as well because life gets in the way. They get social, and so but it's just a way to keep this generation going with their psychic abilities.
Mhm.
If you talk with somebody in our profession in our age right now,
Mhm.
They all told me, all my peers told me when I was younger, my parents told me to close that door or
Yeah.
I was not supported.
Right.
And so that's the goal of this book, is to help the families know how to support their children.
Mm. So I, as a child, I don't remember having any experiences with spirit.
Mhm.
Now, my dad is in spirit. And once I had a reading one time and he came through and I had the medium ask him, did he know that I had spiritual gifts? And he said yes,
Mhm.
because I was always, he said he would catch me always talking like to myself, but
Yes, yes. I understand that completely. It's like, what are you
and
talking
he never, like, he just let it go. Like he just,
Mhm.
okay. And because he knew what it was. And
Oh,
so he
wow.
never stepped in and just,
Yeah.
it's like he would catch me talking to myself and then he would like leave the room or something, or when I was a kid. And it was so funny. I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me? Yeah.
But you know what? That's the way to me, it sounds like that's the way he supported you. He
Yes.
probably didn't know what to do. And I don't know what I'm getting a feeling that he also had the ability.
Yes. I feel
Yeah.
that. I feel that too. Yes.
Yes. Yes, and I think that's a way that he supported you because he's going, "I really don't kn," it's almost like leaving you alone to you going ahead and dealing with your ability
Mm-hmm.
and knowing how to shape it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you probably thought it was normal too, just to talk to somebody in the room. And I want and I was gonna say, yeah, same way I could feel the spirit in the room, and I'd reach
I,
out to them
and
and
you know
everything.
what's so funny? I don't remember. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
remember any of that. What I know consciously as an adult, and that's when I said earlier that I feel like my psychicness was more heightened than my mediumship, is
Oh, right.
because I used to always just randomly read or receive information about people that I didn't know, and it would be true. Or I'd be sitting on the train going to work and I would just like intuit or like read people,
Yes.
strangers.
Yes. And so I know, and sometimes you just can't help it. I mean,
And I
sometimes
just
your energy is that
loved,
strong.
I loved to do that. And people were like, oh, you like to people watch. I was like, no, I think it's a little bit more than just people watching.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Totally. And you say that you weren't good with mediumship, but if you were a little girl and you were talking to people, you had mediumship. You just weren't using it,
Yeah, I
or
wasn't
or
using it.
you weren't ready to use it quite yet,
Yeah. And that's why I
because
feel like my psychicness was more heightened
yes.
than that. Yeah.
And I think that's probably because sometimes we are not ready to talk to spirit, to people who have crossed over, because sometimes it's not a pleasant thing to talk about,
Hmm.
and the other person gets emotional, and if you're a child, you may not be able to deal with it at that time.
Right. I
You know,
agree.
yeah.
Yes. So what do you do on my show? I like to ask people because I'm really all about like self-care and self-love. So what do you do for yourself? What are your self-care practices? How do you maintain and nurture your gifts?
And yes, and I think it is so important. What I do if are you talking about whenever I need to do self care and take care of myself
Yes.
after they're okay?
Yes.
So, like what we were talking about, baths.
Hmm.
I absolutely love baths and salt baths on that.
Okay.
But I have to, and I even did this with when I was raising my children because I would get so tired spiritually with my energy. I have to go into the bedroom and I have to close the door. It has to be completely quiet.
Hmm.
And I just lay there sometimes. And it could be an hour, it could be 6 hours, but I just have to have that quietness so that I can get my energy back up.
Right.
And then I know whenever it's time, I feel so much better. But when I worked as a teacher, I was giving so much of my energy for these kids that Friday afternoon, and I want to say this is for all teachers.
Mhm.
Friday afternoon, I was swiped. I couldn't do anything Friday night. I couldn't go with my friends. And sometimes Saturday, I would be in my PJs all day long.
Right, right.
But that's the number one thing. Vacations I love, but again, vacations is a type of energy that you have to use,
Mhm.
being in a different place.
Yeah.
But I just love, yeah. So I guess I isolate myself. I guess
Yeah.
that's,
That alone time,
yeah,
that's major self-care for me too.
yeah,
Having some
definitely.
alone time for
Yeah.
sure. And since you work with kids, have you run into any kids that you felt were intuitive, like in your class or whatever? And did you recognize?
All the time. And,
Mhm.
and it's so sad because there's not much you can do to talk about it.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you a couple instances when I worked with children with autism. A
Mhm.
lot of people are saying now, oh my gosh, they definitely are very spiritual. They have a lot of sensory needs that they may, we don't know what is going on with them because their sensory is heightened, a lot of times. But
Mhm.
when I was doing research for the book, it made complete sense about how our special needs children, especially the nonverbal ones, can telepathically talk to you. And
Mm.
I had a couple of kids I was working with autism. I knew exactly what type of program they were needing and what they were needing at the time without talking to them. And I'm going, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
And I think also they can see, and it depends on the child. Not every children can do this, but they can
Right.
see different dimensions or different grids of the earth because they'll actually look off a lot of times and they'll start grinning, or it could be spirit that they're talking to,
Yeah.
and they'll just start laughing. And a lot of
Yeah.
times they'll say, what are you laughing at?
Yeah.
And it's like, they're saying, of course, now we wonder, well, are they having a meltdown because, we want them to be on this earth with us? Or are they
Mhm.
having a meltdown because they want to be where the other, dimension is? We don't know because I can't communicate that. But yeah, so time and time again. Oh, I got to tell you one more thing.
Sure. Go ahead.
I just thought about this. I'm working part-time for a school district right now, and I was with a young lady, and all of a sudden she said, my sister died when she was 20. I never knew her. And I went, oh, really? And I said, okay. And all of a sudden I felt like I needed to say, she will always be your sister. And when I said that, this little girl just lightened up. It was like,
Mm.
her sister was there telling
Mhm.
her that I was a comfortable person to talk to, that I'm okay.
Yeah.
And she just grinned after that. And of course, I dropped it because I thought I don't have parents' permission.
Right.
and but it was a beautiful moment, and I hope that I
Yeah.
was able to help her.
Yeah, that's awesome that you were able to give her that little bit of kind of solace at that moment when she
Yes,
needed it.
right, right.
Yeah. So doubling back to your book, where can it be found? Is it on your website or Amazon?
It is on Amazon. It's on
Mhm.
my website. Yeah, you
Okay.
can, it's a connection there. You can't buy it on my website, but there is
Okay.
a link that you can use. But it's
Okay.
on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Yes, all the stores that you can go online with.
Okay. And I'll have that information down
Okay.
in the episode description for anyone who's interested in Michelle's book.
And if they get the book and they're going, I don't really understand this. You know how you get some books and you're going, on my website, there's actually a link that you can go to schedule a discovery
Mhm.
talk with me, so that I can talk to you for 15 minutes about, what you're confused or if you have any questions about the book.
Right.
So it's a discovery call.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And if people want to reach you for readings, they can reach you
Yeah,
there.
they can go to my website and go there, or they can email me. But my website is www.michellehendersonmedium.com.
Okay.
And I don't have a calendar. I do it the old-fashioned way. So if you want to
Okay.
schedule something, you'll email me and we'll go back and forth.
Yeah. I find that that's a lot better. These calendar plug-in thingies drive me nuts too.
Yes. And I had one get scheduled where I wasn't available. And I'm thinking, oh, I forgot to
Yes.
change that, you
Yeah,
know?
because you have to like give it your availability and
Yes.
all this stuff. So before we wrap up, I just, the purpose of this episode is for really for developing mediums to get
Yeah.
some tips on connecting with spirit. So what would be like 3 tips that you would give a developing medium?
Okay. So the first one would be
Hmm.
embrace what you have. Okay. Embrace it. Be your unique self. Don't hide it anymore. Show people who you truly are. The second one is find other people who believe in the exact same thing. If you need to go find a mentor and start taking classes, I would do that.
Hmm.
And then the third one is practice, practice, practice. Because when you first start developing, it's like anything else. You're still honing in on your skill. You're
Hmm.
trying to figure out, well, how can I get this information confidently and accurately? Practice, practice, practice. There are a lot of developmental groups out there that psychic
Hmm.
medium, they're working together
Yes.
on it. Yes.
Yes. Sounds good, Michelle. Thank you for coming on to the show. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And again, I love these conversations because, again, it's something that we love to talk about, especially someone going through the same
Yes.
experiences.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So,
everyone, thank you for listening and or thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.